Hello Year 6, this is Mrs Pratt and it's Wednesday the 27th of January, and today we're going to be looking in our PSHE session all about mental health, what it means and how we can look after it. Now, we recognise in school that this is a big issue, maybe currently at the moment, and it might be an issue for you at home, members of your family. We want you to know that this is a topic we think is really important to discuss and think about, particularly at the current time. But we also recognise that there may be some of you or some of your family members really struggling with this issue, and just to let you know that we would really love to hear from you and speak with you and make sure you are listened to if you are at all concerned about any of the issues that are raised. But we also think it's an important time to address this and think about you as a Year 6 children, really getting grown up now, and how you can best look after your own mental health. So, as we start through the lesson, for today's lesson, you may need to print off some of the resources that have been attached to in the email that you were sent last night. However, if you haven't had a chance to print them off, or you haven't got access to a printer, as long as you've got a piece of paper and a pencil to jot down some of the thoughts and ideas, you can do most of the activities just by looking at the screen and going through the lesson with me. So I'll just give you a chance, if you need to pause the video and collect all the things that you might need for this session. There are some cards to think about and sort with definitions for mental health. As well as this, you will find, I'll just show you some examples of the things you might find in your pack. So you've got some definitions that we're going to look at in a minute, a mental health thermometer that's in your pack, some cards that you're going to think about sorting, but you can do this on screen, so don't panic if you haven't printed that off. And there's our teacher guide answers, which actually might be helpful for you for one of the last activities that you take part in. So all of those have been given to you in your email, and just give you a chance now to pause the video and collect any resources that you might need. Okay, so moving on. First question really for you is, what is mental health? It's a term that we hear quite a lot around in the media, and it's becoming something that people are more keen to talk more openly about, which is really a positive thing. So you might have heard this term before, and just have a think to yourself, what is mental health? And you might want to jot this down on a little piece of paper, just so you can start to gather your own ideas before we look at other definitions and seeing which ones we could justify as summing up mental health the best. Okay, so on the board we've got some definitions that you might have been thinking about when you thought of mental health. And what I'd like you to do is think about which definition you can see in front of you is the best definition to sum up mental health. There's not a right answer here. If you can explain and justify your reason for the definition you've picked, then that's a really valid answer, and we'd love to hear your responses from that activity. So give you a chance now. I'm going to read them through and just have a think to yourself, which definition do you personally think sums up mental health the best? And then we'll just talk about some of the answers that you might have given and explaining a little bit more about the term itself. So, mental health means being happy all the time. Mental health is about feelings and emotions, knowing how to take care of ourselves so that we can cope with things that happen to us. Mental health means that there is something wrong with the person and they might behave in a strange way. Mental health means that you often feel worried, anxious or depressed. And mental health is a bit like a continuum. People can move along it and feel better or worse at different times, just like with physical health. So which definition do you think best sums up mental health for you? Pause the video if you need to and jot down the definition you've selected and think about reasons why you've selected the one you have. Okay, as I said, there isn't a right answer to this. All of these definitions can have valid reasons behind them. In the same way that everyone has physical health, which is about their body, everyone also has mental health, both children and adults. It's about our mind and your feelings and your emotions. It can include how we feel about ourselves, our relationships, how we deal with challenges and difficulties. And mental and physical health are connected. Being fit and well physically helps us to be fit and well mentally, and vice versa. It can, for some people, mean that they behave in strange ways that are out of the ordinary, and sometimes that can be a sign that people aren't coping with their mental health particularly well, and they need some support and help with that. It is something that can change for people at different points in their life or different points in their day even. It can make you sometimes feel better or worse, just like with your physical health. Sometimes you can be fitter at various points in your life when you've done more activities, and your health can be suffering at other points when you perhaps haven't had enough exercise or eaten the right things in your diet. Obviously, to have good mental health, you want to have a balance of being able to control and cope with your emotions around you. And this doesn't necessarily mean you're beaming and smiling and giggling the whole time, but you have found a way to be content in yourself and that you can cope with the situations you're presented in. So it's quite useful to look at the definition of mental health, and we have two here, one from the World Health Organization and one from NHS England, and they just give us a snapshot of their definition of mental health, and obviously we'll touch on the areas that they address as we go through the session. So the World Mental Health Organization describes mental health as being a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to her or his community. And NHS England summarised that by describing it as how we think, feel and behave. And these definitions might be useful in helping you to explore the issues around mental health and how you can help your own mental health as we move forward. So we're going to have a look at a short activity now about how people feel and how we can gauge how they're physically feeling and how they're mentally feeling when we perhaps meet someone. So the first thing you'll need to do is draw yourself a little gingerbread man, a little bit like this. You might go for details or just make it quite simplistic, just as long as you've got space that you can write inside and outside of the image. So just give you a chance to do that. Pause the video if you need to. So the first activity is, how do we know if someone feels good in their body, their physical health, and in their mind, their mental health? So I'd like you to have a think now about how they might do this, and I suggest perhaps if you write ideas about them, how you know that somebody feels good about their mental health inside your image, and how they might feel good about themselves, their physical health on the outside. What might it look like if you were to talk with someone, meet with someone, and you could see that they were feeling good about their physical health and their mental health? So just to give you an idea, you might see that as you speak with them, they seem that they are happy most of the time. So you might put happy most of the time here inside, because they seem as well when they're talking to you that they're feeling positive about things. You might see on the outside physically that they look clean and tidy, so that you can sort of tell that someone's feeling good in their body. So those are two ideas that might help you build up a picture of how you would know someone felt good in their body their physical health and in their mind, in their mental health. So pause the video and complete that activity about what somebody might look like and what they might seem like emotionally and physically. Okay, so you should have had a chance to add to your picture now. You all have different things, and please send those ideas into your class teacher. We talked about the fact that mentally they might be happy a lot of the time. They can easily perhaps talk about how they feel. They physically wise, they're taking exercise, they're getting out and about. Their skin and hair might look fresh and glossy, and we touched on the fact that they will probably look quite clean and tidy to help you know that they are feeling good about themselves. So following on from this, we're going to draw a second diagram, and this time you'll need a new image to record your ideas into. And this is how we might know someone doesn't feel good in their body, in their physical health, and in their mind and their mental health. So just to give you a couple of ideas here, you might see that their skin looks pale. They don't quite look their normal self. They look under the weather almost. And you might, when you start talking with them, you sort of find out that they not only seem and look perhaps sad, but they say they're tired all of the time. So when they're speaking with you, you kind of get a gauge of their kind of internal emotions at the current point that you're talking with them. So your job now is to start to think about what you think someone would look like and seem like if they did not feel good about themselves in their body and in their mind. It's hard to place your words, maybe some of them don't quite fit inside and outside. For example, I might say that they looked sad. That might be an outside image for yourself, but you might gauge that they are sad when you've started talking to them. So the words sad and feeling sad might go into inside the body and outside. And it doesn't really necessarily matter exactly where you place the words, it's just for you to start thinking about how we start to recognise if someone does not feel good about themselves physically and mentally. So I'll give you a chance to pause the video and fill in the information about that. Okay, so hopefully you've had some ideas. You may have added to your diagram with things like they feel ill, and they may not actually be ill, but they have that kind of anxiety that's made them feel quite ill in the day, seeming as though they feel quite sick a lot of the time. They don't, maybe you've added to the diagram, they don't seem to have sort of that get up and go. They seem to need to take medicine. Their positive attitude. They might look even grey and might look sick to you when you see them. They may be somebody that you can see that they have had lack of exercise. The important thing that we need to stress now is that the way a person looks or behaves can suggest about how they are feeling, but we cannot always tell. Sometimes illness or ill health is not always obvious to others. We're now going to move on to our next activity, and this activity is going to take a little while to go through. There will be various codes that we'll be putting on. You don't necessarily need to cut out all your cards for this, you can just be labelling them, and if you haven't had a chance to print out your cards, you might just want to look at them and label them on screen and bear that in mind as we go through. So there's lots and lots of cards for you to have a look at. I'm not going to read them all through, you can do that yourself. They've all got things that we might do in our daily life or we might not do, but they're activities that are on there. So just having a look at them on the screen, you can see them quite quickly. It might not be as clear to see them because they're smaller, so they've been reduced so that you can see them all at once. I'll show you them as individual slides also as the lesson goes through. So I would like you to look at the cards, whether you've printed out these or you look at them on the screen as we go through, and we need to think about looking at these cards on thinking, are these things that should be done for our mental health, our physical health, both or neither? And to help you and avoid having to do lots of cutting and sorting with so many different cards, I've just put a little coding system on the screen for you. So if these things should be done for our physical health, you can just put P, mental health M. If you think they should be done for both our mental and physical health, you can put B for both. And if it's neither for our physical or mental health, you don't think it's actually important for either, then just leave that. Don't put anything there, don't put code there, because there'll be some other things that we'll add to these cards in a little bit. So just as an example, I've got here one, so taking medicine. So you might all have different thoughts about this, but it could be that you put the symbol P, because we could take medicine to improve our physical health, but you also might be taking medicine for your mental health. So you might have two codes on this particular one, and some of them will have one, like I said, some of them will have both, and if it has both, you can either put medicine, it can improve your physical health, and by taking medicine also your mental health. If it's neither, just leave it without a symbol on it. So pause the video, have a look at all your card scenarios if you've had them printed out. If not, I will show you each side and give you a chance to pause that and have a think whether which coding should go on to each activity. Okay, for those of you looking on screen, here's the first set of activities for you to decide whether it's for your mental health, physical health, both or for neither. So I'm just going to go through them one at a time. I've got taking medicine, spending time with friends, eating a balanced diet that includes plenty of fruit and vegetables, washing and keeping your body clean, drinking water regularly, swimming, dancing or indoor sports, helping an elderly neighbour with their shopping, having fun with your family, and stroking a pet. Pause the video if you need to, just to look at the screen and make your decisions about which code you would put for these. Okay, next up, here's some other activities that you might want to you need to make a decision on. So remember, it's for your physical health, mental health, both or neither. Taking rest, relaxing, quiet time, going outside and having some fresh air, talking about your problems to a doctor, nurse or counsellor, playing board games, playing active games outdoors, joining a sports club, drawing, painting or making something, listening to music, playing on the computer, thinking of happy times, offering to do a chore at home, taking the dog for a walk. If you need to, pause the computer so that you can have a look and make a selection about which you think goes with which activity on the screen. And next up, going to bed at a sensible time, to get enough sleep at night, allowing enough time to do your homework, expressing your feelings, drinking energy drinks, having an internet phone-free day, reading a good story, watching TV or your favourite films, eating lots of sweets, and helping someone you notice needs help. Pause the video so you can decide whether these will help your mental, physical health or both or neither. Here is the next set of slides. Obviously, if you've been doing this on your own by having the printout and sorting. You won't have needed to go through these step by step. So practicing mindfulness, punching a pillow, talking to a trusted adult, chatting to a friend, going to the dentist, haircuts and hairstyle, volunteering to help, smoking, taking deep breaths, learning something new, tidying up, and walking to school. Okay, the next task to do with your sorting cards is to add some further codes to what you already have. So it's just thinking about now whether they should be done every day, sometimes if there's a problem, or rarely or not at all. So if you look back at the one I started with previously, we were talking about taking medicine. I put down that I thought it was for both mental and physical health you can take medicine for. But the next decision to make is whether it's something you might do every day, sometimes if there's a problem, rarely or not at all. So the codes that I add, you can see the E, S, P and R. You might want to jot that little coding system down somewhere so that it helps when you go back to your cards. So actually there might be several that can go on one card. So it might be that it is something that you need to do every day. It might be something that you need to do just sometimes. It may be that you might need to do that only if there is a problem. So they are the ones I've selected. There's possibly always been a point in your life where you have had to take medicine for one reason or another. So it could possibly rarely or not at all if you're a very healthy person, both physically and mentally. But it's most likely that you'd only take medicine when there's a problem, so it wouldn't be under the rarely category. So your next job is to go back to your sorting cards and to have a think about whether they should be done every day, sometimes if there's a problem, or rarely or not at all. And just have a think through that for each of the activities. Like I said before, if you need to do this on screen, I'm going to go through each screen so that you can see and make those decisions for those activities that you may not have printed out. Otherwise, just do that on your paper-based version. So I won't read these through again, I'll just get you to pause the screen and put your coding system on. In fact, what I might do to help you is just copy this across so that you can know the coding that you need to put at each time. I'll just put that in a different colour so that it's nice and clear for you, so that you can remind yourself of that as you make your decisions. So pause the video if you need to and think about the coding that you need to include. Okay, next up, here's some of the other activities. So have a think about whether they should be done at particular times, every day, sometimes if there's a problem, or rarely or not at all. And next up, have a think about these activities on the screen. Pause the video for you to be able to do that. And lastly, the last set of activities that you were looking at, and to make some decisions, so you might want to pause the video so you can have a think through that. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the suggested answers. You've actually received this in your pack already, so you can have a look across to those. These are some of the things that have been suggested might be done for your mental and physical health, or for neither, and the regularity in which you might be doing these activities or experiencing these things. So you can see on the screen what they are. I won't go through them all. They're just some of them for you to have a think about. Obviously there's some that are quite important for every day, this one here and this one here, and some of them are more important for your own mental health. Those are the kind of things that might happen sometimes but would boost your own mental health. Here's some other activities that you will have coded. Obviously it's not really a case of purple pen marking, but if you'd like to have a look what you've put in comparison to what the suggested outcomes might have been. There's a little bit here about it might improve your mental health to do some work on playing on the computer. It's a relaxing thing, but just it's very dependent on the time and spent in the content of the game that you're playing. A high adrenaline one doesn't necessarily support good mental health. So there's sometimes activity on that. Next up, there are some here that don't improve our mental or physical health. Although when we drink energy drinks and eat lots of sweets, it gives us an immediate burst of energy, and we'll be talking about our diet in our science this week. You have already had one of those lessons. It's something that physically long term and mentally long term, it's not beneficial to either. So it's something you should really try and avoid, rarely or not at all. I know it's nice to have those treats, but they won't help your mental or physical health. So just give you a chance to look at the rest of those. This is a really massively important one just for your own mental and physical health, that you need to do every day. It makes a massive difference to your own concentration levels, your ability to cope with situations. I think all the other ones here are a bit self-explanatory. Some of you might not care so much about your hairstyle and haircut. It's something you might do sometimes, but it's something that is being seen to boost people's mental health, about the way they feel about themselves and making themselves feel good, and therefore changing their mental attitude. Smoking is not beneficial for either mentally or for your physical health, so it's to be avoided rarely or not at all. But something like chatting to a friend every day can really boost your own mental health. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to look at them in your pack. You have the answer sheet if you like, but it's just making sure that we're taking care of our mental health is just as important as taking care of our physical health, and the two are really closely linked, and so many of the activities that help people's physical health also supports their mental health. It's also important just to point out that in order for some people to maintain good health, there may be things they have to do every day, which other people may only have to do sometimes. For example, taking medication. That might be something that some people have to do for their own physical or mental health every day, whereas others may only have to do that on occasions. Okay, so the next thing I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about is this mental health thermometer. Get my own tongue in a twist there. We can think of our mental health a little bit like a scale that we can move up or down, a bit like a thermometer. So mental health can move anywhere up or down the thermometer between being healthy or being unwell. We can move along the scale at any time, but there are things that we can do to support us to stay in health and coping areas in the middle. Sometimes we may go into the struggling or unwell areas, and to support us with mental health we can do some things to put some things in place to help us feel better and move out of the struggling or unwell areas. So what we're going to do for our next activity, I've got a scenario about someone called Jay, and I'm going to read it through, and as I do, what I might do on the screen here, just so that you can sort of pinpoint where we are, I've got a little dot there, just to sort of start pinpointing where Jay might be on this mental health thermometer at the various points in his kind of diary journey throughout the day. And once we've finished looking through this together, and you've sort of started thinking yourself whereabouts he might be, I would like you to start thinking of some things, some suggestions you can start making that might improve Jay's ability to manage his own well-being, to avoid moving into those struggling zones and to reduce his chances of being into the unwell area. The strategies that you might suggest to him, so just writing a very short little paragraph to Jay himself, is by looking back at some of these suggested things that are here that improve his mental or physical health. Some of these things might be suggestions you can make to Jay that he can use to improve his own mental health and to avoid him getting unwell. So as you think about your advice for Jay, you need to start thinking about perhaps some of these things that we've already looked at that would be good help points to improve his mental and physical health. So Jay enjoys drawing cartoons and skateboarding. Jay is quiet and thoughtful. He has good friends and likes school. Jay mostly generally feels happy, although like everyone he has his ups and downs. So we sort of start the scenarios with him coping. He's got some things he really enjoys doing. He's quite quiet and thoughtful, but he's got some good friends and he likes going to school. He's generally feeling happy. Okay. So Jay has recently started feeling quite sad. Most days the sadness seems to come and go, but some days it feels as though a dark cloud is gathering above and following Jay around all day. Skateboard, so he's starting to struggle, as you can hear from this narrative. Skateboarding takes his mind off it, and when he starts to get stronger, Jay draws a cartoon that shows the feelings and the cloud. So he's starting to develop his own coping strategies by using his things that he enjoys, like going skateboarding, also the drawing, and the drawing of things that are concerning him. Getting those things onto paper is a really great strategy for sharing concerns and just giving yourself a chance to offload. So he does that, and that helps him move from the struggling area back to coping. Jay feels very sad most of the time though, so every day when he wakes up, Jay feels the day ahead of him is just too much. Everything feels grey and dark. Jay is finding it hard to communicate at school, and some days doesn't want to go to school at all. Nothing seems enjoyable anymore, not even skateboarding. Jay's friends are worried. So he's really starting to become quite unwell from this feeling that he's really sad, he can't concentrate, he doesn't want to enjoy things anymore, and not even the skateboarding he's really enjoyed before. And Jay's friends are really beginning to get worried about him. The strategies he's used in the past don't seem to be working. So our job really now for Jay is to look back at some of these helpful activities that he might be able to do that would really help Jay to move away from this feeling, this mental feeling of being unwell, and the fact he's feeling really sad and finding it really hard to concentrate. And that's something I'd like you to have a go at. Obviously, we're going to be doing a further lesson about strategies that we can link into if we're feeling really unwell in the next couple of sessions. So it's just initial thoughts about how we might support and help Jay when he's feeling this sad and this unwell in himself. So your initial thoughts, if you could send to your class teacher. And then we'll hopefully, as the lessons build up over the next 2 weeks, we'll be able to come up with some more strategies that might support us. But for now, have a look back at these cards, and they might give you some things that you can suggest that Jay might be able to do to move his feelings from the unwell mental anxiety he's having at the present time to coping and feeling like he is healthy and able to function. Okay, so we look forward to hearing from you and your responses to this. Goodbye for now.